9 goals in a Premier League game. There's some stats about that, but they annoyed Stevie, so we won't go into them, shall we? There you go. 5-4 it would finish for Manchester City. They hold on for the win. As it stands right now, they've played a game more, but they are 2 points behind Arsenal. They sit in second right now. Don Hutchison was watching for us as well. It's another game in which we've seen City give away goals freely after taking a lead. We saw it at the weekend against Leeds, Don, but they got away with it again today.
Yeah, let's not even go there with the XG. I mean, how can Fulham score 4 and only have 1 of an XG and City score 5 and their XG was 2? It was supposed to be the night where I come on tonight and I go, Man City on fire. Erling Haaland gets to 100, the fast ever to achieve it. Phil Foden's banging form, 4 goals in 2 games. City on the march. They're 2 points now behind Arsenal. Everything was supposed to be pro-City and the role that they're on and they're flying and scoring 5 goals. But when you lose 4 and 2 against Leeds and 2 against Newcastle, all of a sudden you're coming on tonight thinking, can they win the league? Because they can, the form they're in, but you can't be conceding 4 goals against Fulham and 2 against Leeds. So I think it leaves everyone a little bit scratching their heads, thinking where they at. They're in good form. They're winning games. They're scoring goals. Haaland's got to 100. Phil Foden, like we just said, is scoring goals and looking great. But that defence is all over the place.
How do you assess it, Stevie? Because it's these 2 back-to-back wins here for them. Yep. But it's some scary moments on the way to them.
Well, I think we saw, and we've seen over the last 4 games in particular, what City are all about. You know, the question before these games was, who's going to score if Haaland doesn't? Well, all of a sudden, Doku stepped up. We saw Foden, last 2 or 3 games, has stepped up. So they've answered that question. But then we spoke about the back line. Going into the Newcastle game, they had only lost 4 in 8 games. And so it was, well, they look kind of settled. They've lost 10 goals in 4 games since then. So it's pretty clear what City are. They're a team that going forward, if you don't ruffle them up, if you step off and let them play, then they've got weapons. That front 3, all scoring goals. So that's what you're going to get. Unfortunately, you kind of know what you're going to get defensively. They can't. They don't cover each other particularly well. That's the biggest problem. And you've got 2 fullbacks who absolutely 100%. They're 2 guys that prefer to go forward and defend.
They're not fullbacks. That's
well, and okay. So then you're playing with 2 at the back. So don't be surprised if you lose 10 goals in 4 games when you're only playing with 2 defenders. And albeit a great goalie, but even a great goalie has lost 10 in the last 4. So it's pretty clear what City are. Really clear.
And beyond what we've come to expect of Manchester City, when it's 5-4, right? And you can sense that they're freaking out. But it's one thing that we can sense that they're freaking out. Completely different story when you actually see Manchester City, a team that thrives in possession of the ball and the quality of those players have in that possession of the ball, nervous with the ball at their feet, unable to complete passes and Fulham all over them, clearing the ball wherever it may go, running away from pressure, hoping that the time runs out. That is not the look of a potential champion. Now, in my estimation, Don feels otherwise, but in my estimation, they're not in that conversation just yet up until we see some sort of collapse from Arsenal that we haven't seen just yet. And so the way they closed out this match is far more important to me than the 3 points that they got out of this game. The way this game was 5-1 and it became 5-4, and they couldn't quite control the end of the game properly, the way that a champion team or championship level team should do, is the sort of stuff that hangs around and creates doubt. This team walks out of this stadium today not talking about the fact that they won away from home and that they won 2 in a row. They walk out of this stadium today thinking, oh, man, good Lord, man. Whoo! Ha! We got away with that one. In a game in which you score 5 goals away from home. And it creates doubt. And that's doubt that hangs around. And eventually it shows up again whenever it's the next time for you to hang on to a result.
One man who keeps showing up is Erling Haaland, though, Don. The fastest to 100 Premier League goals. Got that 100th tonight. And you'd expect a lot more are going to follow.
Yeah, I mean, when he analyses his performance tonight, he probably should have had a hat-trick. But, I mean, the fastest to it by a margin, by the way. I mean, he's just come into the Premier League in the short space of time, completely ripped all the numbers up. You know, it used to be back in the day where, you know, a striker would hit 20 goals a season, you'd be happy. I think Messi, Ronaldo and Haaland are changing those numbers. The way he plays the game, everyone's looked at, tried to micro-analyse where his weaknesses might be, but I think he proved tonight with the through ball that he is a good number 9 target man, can lay it off, but he's a predator, okay? He lives his life scoring goals. He'll never miss. Even when he misses one, he'll get back on the horse and he'll get another one, he'll get another chance. He never loses confidence. I think that's the main thing about him. We're all footballers and we've all got an ego and we can all be a little bit vulnerable at times. And when you're having a bad run, it can get to you. I just think the way Haaland plays the game and his attitude and his character, he could miss 10 chances in a game. He'll still get on the next one and he'll still score the game after. He's a freak of nature. He's amazing to watch.
That confidence, as you mentioned as well in the highlight, Alec, is unwavering.
Yeah, and that is actually the key to it all. That he's not thinking, man, I miss one, that becomes 2, that becomes 4, and now you go 3 games in which you haven't scored a goal because you're thinking about the bad miss that you just had. He has the opposite approach. He is thinking, I'm going to get another one, and I'm going to score that one. If I don't score that one, I'll score the next. Just give me the chances. I will take on the responsibility. And in order, not that I would know this, but in order for you to become a prolific goal scorer, you have to wholeheartedly believe that you're putting yourself in the best position, and if you get enough chances, you're going to score goals. Not that guy, not that guy, not that guy. You are going to score goals. That's your job, and that's what you live for, and that's the way he thrives. He thrives. That is his lifeline, scoring goals, and that's how he plays the game.
When you play with this City team that he's been playing with, it's not too long before he gets another chance, let's be honest. So he doesn't really have time to dwell on misses because he knows there's another one coming along very shortly.
That seemed like a backhanded
I know, I can't
compliment.
quite tell myself.
I looked at that list and I'm thinking, all of those players. Shearer's a great example.
Can we not do Haaland lists again, Stevie?
No, please don't.
Well, you look at Shearer. If Shearer had been playing today, he would have those numbers that Haaland's got as well. I mean, Haaland, that's how good he is.
Can we just appreciate Haaland and instead of
I'm just
placing
saying,
him in some sort of historical
I'm just pointing
conversation?
out that it's a lot easier not to dwell on misses when you've got another one coming in in about 65 seconds.
You could have put Haaland back in Shearer's era and in previous eras of the Premier League and he'd still be delivering goals like this, right?
Yes, he'd still be scoring goals. Not at the rate he is right now, but absolutely, yeah.
I mean,
Don, can you weigh in on what Stevie's saying here? The first points he's making, that if you're in the City team, you're going to get goals anyway.
No. Yeah, well, 100%, but you've still got to have the confidence and you've still got to have the ability to take them. I mean, just because you play for Man City, it's not like you can get a guy from the pub team and put him up top of Man City and go, right, score 20 goals a season. You've got to have the ability. We saw that at Dortmund. You see that at international level. He's got it. He's just got that. He's got that aura, he's got that presence, even when he's not scoring, he's having an impact on the game. He's impacting centre-back. So where sometimes you might feel he's a little bit quiet because we associate him with being a number 9 and a prolific goal scorer, he's still got a different role in the team when he's not scoring goals. But like I said before, he lives for the goals. And like Ali said there, it's like he misses one, so what? He's got that ability and that character and that confidence to shake it off. And then on to Stevie's point, you've got to make sure you're good enough and you're ready enough and technically you're good enough for when that chance comes, not to dwell on the one that you've missed, but to get your head down and finish it. Like I said, I guarantee you, because I know what pros are like, he'll put his head on the pillar tonight and he'll be so chuffed with being the fastest, but I guarantee you, if you ask him, he'll say, should have scored 3. That's how he works.
Would he have scored as many back in the day by your assessment, Don?
Yeah.
Yes, he would.
Yeah, no, of course he would. I think to Stevie's point, when you bring Alan Shearer into the equation, I mean, Shearer played in a tough era and he'd done his ACL, so he was missing for quite a while. So the guys on that list are on there for a reason. He'd have banged in goals for fun, Haaland. He'd still be top of those charts, I'd imagine.
Well, can we just do then an apples to apples conversation then, in comparison, which is Sergio Aguero, who played for Manchester City. Very good Manchester City teams. Great Manchester City teams. Even Sergio Aguero, who is on that list, took 147 matches to score 100 goals,
yes, David.
whereas Erling Haaland took 111.
argument again. I think you started that argument.
You started it by not just giving him his flowers.
I just
I
did
look at that
apples to
list,
apples.
and you can talk about Aguero if you want as well. But the game is so wide open. That's why he's. I'm not talking about his ability. I'm just saying that the game is so wide open. That's why he's got so many goals so quickly. That's the difference between him, in my opinion, and the majority of the rest. It's so open. That's why it's 100 and 111 games. I mean, that's mental.
Again, that sounded like a backhanded compliment.
Well, again, it's got nothing to do with his ability. I'm just saying.
He's like, congratulations, Erling. Not bad.
Yeah, all right.
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah, who do you think you are, anyway? Hey?
Don, you know we need a percentage chance question. It's not about Erling Haaland. It's about City and Arsenal right now and
here we
winning
go.
the Premier League
Here we
title.
Yeah. Well, the same as Saturday night, 60-30-10, and Chelsea's the 10. I would not write Man City off. I wouldn't write them off at all because they can go on a run. I think their next game's Sunderland. So, before you know it, there could be 3 or 4 wins on the spin, and they sit here tonight, only 2 points behind. How do you write a Man City team off that's done this twice against Arsenal? How do you write them off completely when they're only 2 points behind? You can't.
All right, let's move on to talk more Premier League because it's St James's Park.
For the record, when they were up 4 points on Manchester City, Arsenal were 4 points. He had it at 50-50.
Yes.
Now they're only 2 points ahead. Now he's got 60-30.
A long season ahead.
That's the old Don logic again.
2-2, it would finish. The 95th minute there. Christian Romero, the hero on the day. Let's take a look at the standings. Both teams finding themselves down in the bottom half of the table. Spurs in 11th right now, Newcastle in 13th. Lots to talk about from this game. Don's still with us. Let's get to that penalty decision first, Stevie. Let's just reiterate your feeling on it.
Well, I don't think there's no question Betancourt is the initial aggressor. He puts his hand on his waist, but we see that every single corner in every single game. But then Dan Burns starts forcing Betancourt backwards. Betancourt's starting to lose his balance. Dan Burns got his arm locked in, and Dan Burns twice the size of Betancourt, and he's forcing him down, and he ends up on top of Betancourt. Now, I don't see as a referee you can turn around and say that's definitely a penalty kick. I just don't see it.
How did you see it, Don?
Exactly the same as Stevie. It's never a penalty. It's never, ever, ever a penalty. That's 2 players more or less wrestling for the same bit of territory. Who was at fault? I don't think you can split them. I think it's a 50-50 who's trying to sort of wrestle away a yard. I just think it's one of those where whoever hits the floor, the referee then thinks, oh, that must be a foul to the player that's hit the floor. I think that was a poor decision from the referee. He didn't actually have a good game, the referee, all evening. He's a young referee, so it was a tough game for him to try and ref in, so I'll give him that. But I think the VAR decision for the pen was extremely harsh.
What's your overall take on today's result between these two sides and how it all ended, though, Don?
Well, Spurs come out with a bit of credit, Kay, because they got battered for 45 minutes, and that's, I think, where Eddie Howe will be upset. That Newcastle didn't go at least 1 or 2-0 up at half-time. Hand on heart, I think Eddie got his team wrong. I think he should have started with Anthony Gordon and Anthony Elanga. He went with Murphy and Barnes, who, to be fair, are in good form. I just think the way Spurs line up with Udogie and Porro at right back, you can get at them with raw pace, and that's exactly what happened when Anthony Gordon and Elanga came on. So I think Eddie Howe will be a little bit sort of self-reflecting when he thinks, could I have done a little bit more? I think he could have. Romero, he'll never score a couple of worldy goals like that, even though, as Ali said, it was an absolute shin to win the last one, but a diving header and an overhead kick to get a point. So credit Spurs for not caving in, but Newcastle will be a little bit devastated they didn't put them away in the first half.
And not all heroes wear capes, Ali.
Well, no, and Christian Romero does not have a cape. I honestly, because we're watching a lot of games at the same time, and every time that I pan to the Newcastle Spurs game, especially in the first half, I'm thinking, good Lord, these are 2 bad teams. Bad teams. And Newcastle slightly better than Spurs, and yes, should have been up at halftime, but just on the whole, what I'm most surprised about is that actually there were 4 goals produced in this game. Where did the 4 goals come from? Because on the basis of the performance, you look at both of them, and they belong exactly where they are on the table. This is not a coincidence. And That's the overall feeling that I got in watching the game, is that, yeah, they are what they are for a reason. Spurs struggles to create anything of any sort of significance in the attack, so much so that you have to lean on Cristian Romero to be the one that scores 2 goals for you somehow. As for Newcastle, you get the feeling that they should be better, that they could be better, but for whatever reason, they just can't quite string it together game after game after game. In fact, half to half. Their drop-off in performance within games is significant, so much so that you allow a very average team like Spurs, to get back into this match. Newcastle should have won this game. They would be disappointed, but just on the whole, both of these teams, they got a whole lot of work to do.
A lot of work to do, Stevie.
Yeah, I think, Newcastle definitely let themselves down in the final third with the amount of ball they had. Ali's talking about looking at the game. Every time you watch this game, the yellow jerseys were defending. But you've got to give them credit for that. Particularly, Frank's under pressure. And of course, whenever a manager's under pressure, the old classic comes out. Oh, the players playing for the manager, they're putting it in. Well, in terms of performance today, were they at the silky best? 100% not. But I'll tell you what, they didn't have to put the effort in. Yes, they had to defend for their lives, but they did it. And you don't do that if you want rid of the manager. And the fact that when they went 1-0 down, we all thought, game's done here. Because this team couldn't even get out the park, never mind score a goal. But they came back, they didn't let their heads go down. They came back into the game. And Newcastle took a step back, naturally. But they got back in it. And then again, they get punched in the jaw again. 2-1 down, game's done. No, it's not. So I think we've got to give Spurs some credit. They didn't deserve to get in from the game, but they kept at it. And if anybody had any doubts that this team wants Frank as their manager, this effort showed that they still believe in him.
Okay, it wasn't.